Welcome back, everyone. In this video, we are going to set up a Netlify function. So the great thing about Netlify is that it makes it very easy for us to use these serverless functions. Under the hood, they use AWS's Lambda function, which is essentially a specific resource on the AWS cloud configuration that allows us to create these functions that run for 10 seconds roughly. So that's just enough time for us to actually create this request, wait for the response, and then send it back. And the way that we create them is inside of your root folder. You're going to make a new folder called Netlify. By default, Netlify is going to look inside of this Netlify folder for another folder called functions. And any functions that you define inside of here, which are JavaScript files, it will build for you during your build step. So it will actually proposition and create the correct resources so that it can serve up your functions whenever requests get made to them. So this is the first step. The next step is to actually name the function files. So essentially whatever the name of the file is whatever the name of the route will be. So here I want to call this create-payment-intent.js because what we're making is a payment intent. Now, in order for us to make this work, we need a couple back-end specific libraries. Specifically, we need the ones that allow us to work with Stripe. So to do this, what we're going to do with these Netlify functions is they share the same package JSON file as our root application. So we're going to add them to the same exact package JSON. So go back to your terminal. And what we're going to do is we are going to add in through the same package JSON. Remember, you're going to yarn add Stripe, which is the Stripe library we need for our backend. And then the other one we need is .env. Now remember when I mentioned that Create React App has .env under the hood? Well, for us, we're not in Create React App land when we're working with our serverless functions. It's like a brand new node environment. So what we need is going to be .env as well for this application. So now let's add these in. And then what we're going to do is go back to our application, and inside of your .env file, your .env file, Netlify functions is going to share this same .env file in local testing. When we actually deploy this into Netlify, we will add these variables manually into the environment section of Netlify, but we'll talk about that when we get to the hosting section. What I want to do is be able to access this. So to do that, you need to go into your Stripe and add your secret key here. So I'm going to call it something a little bit more obvious. So something like Stripe secret key, because it's not for React app, but I'm just going to add Stripe secret key is equal to the string. Now I don't want to show you mine. You should never show your secret key to anybody. So just paste it and make sure it's a string. Go into your developer section of your Stripe dashboard and then just copy the secret key. You have to click it to reveal it and then copy it. But that's what I want you to do. I want you to copy it and then paste it into your secret file. And then when you come back, we'll have assumed that you've done that. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you've done what I said, where you copy your secret key, put it into your .env file. And now back inside of our serverless function, what we're going to do is we are going to require the moment that this mounts, we're going to require .env and we're going to run .config on it. Now, you might notice that the code we write here is going to be a little different. If you're unfamiliar with Node, primarily we actually aren't using a lot of ES6 features. So this is one of these things that we're kind of going back to writing old school vanilla JavaScript. So if you're unfamiliar, don't worry, it requires pretty much just an older version of import. So we're requiring the .env, so we're essentially importing in the .env library, and we're running config, which will essentially attach all of those secret variables on the .env file onto our process environment. Once we have that, what we're going to do is we are also going to get Stripe. So Stripe, we're going to say require from Stripe. And now, once we get this, what we're going to do is we are going to pass it our secret variable. So here I'm going to say process.env.stripe underscore secret key, because that's the name that I gave to my variable that has the secret key. And now that we have this, we can now start working with the actual function. The function that is housed inside of this file, it is the main export. So to do this, you're going to say exports.handler, which is, again, the old school way of saying export that we're used to. And this handler is equal to an async function that receives an event. And then what it's going to do is that this event is pretty much the request and the response. If you've ever worked with Express before, this is essentially a stripped down version without Express. It's just a very basic function that will receive this event request and then do something with it. So here I'm going to write a try catch block. And what I'm going to say is that when you send me this event, I am going to make a payment intent to Stripe using this Stripe library. In order for me to make a payment intent, though, there's a couple things I need to know. I need to know the currency, and I need to know the payment method that I'm going to accept, as well as the amount. So here I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to assume, and this is something we need to know, and pass in. We're going to pass the amount as an integer. And essentially, it's going to be a value. So let's say if it was $100, we would pass in 100 followed by 2 zeros. So it's essentially in cents. There's no decimals. So it's a whole number. So we just got to think about whatever we're passing through. If we're assuming it's dollars, just multiply it by 100. This amount is going to come from the event body. But because it's in JSON, we need to parse it. So we're going to say JSON parse event.body. So on that event body is going to be some value amount, and that amount is going to be the actual integer we use. Then what we're going to say is, okay, I'm going to make a payment intent. So I'm going to say const payment intent is equal to await, because again, this is us making a request to the Stripe server to say, hey, I want to make this payment. We're going to say stripe.paymentintents.create. So this is from the Stripe library. We're going to create a payment intent and pass it an object where we're going to give it the amount, we're going to give it the currency, and here I'm going to say USD. And then we're also going to say underscore payment method types. This is going to be an array which accepts the different payment types that we can perform for this. I'm going to say it's just credit card because I'm not taking any other payment intent types. And then once this is done, we're going to return this back. So we're going to return an object with a status code of 200. And we're also going to pass back a body object. And this is us JSON stringifying an object with a payment intent as the key value. So that's all this is doing. So essentially we're saying, hey, if you give us this value and we succeed in getting a payment intent, we're going to send this back to you. If there is an error, what we're going to do is we're going to log the error for ourselves inside of our development environment so that we can see it. And then what we're going to do is return back status 400. And here we're just going to pass back the error. And that's it. That's all we need for this function. Now, in order for actually to test this function, we need to actually leverage something called the Netlify CLI. The CLI will allow us to build our entire project in the kind of environment that Netlify would, but doing it locally on your own computer. So we have our function set up. In order for us to hook this together and test it, we're going to need Netlify CLI, which we'll learn about in the next video. So again, what we've done now is we have set up a very basic function that receives a request where we expect an amount value. We then pass this into Stripe to make a payment intent, which as it sounds like, it's an intent to make a payment that Stripe registers. And then what happens is that we return that intent back to the front end, if successful. If unsuccessful, we return back a 400 with the error. Very simple. And now we're going to hook this together with the Netlify CLI. So I'll see you in the next video.